The Edmonton Oilers robbed the NHL, and here's why. As Stan Bowman acquired one of the top prospects and most sought after players going into free agency this year, as he makes a trade that changes the trajectory of this Oilers team, not only next season, but for the years to come. We're going to break down everything on this player and how he has a huge impact on the Oilers roster later on this episode. Before we get into that, if you're part of the 83% watching this and you haven't hit that sub button yet and you want to stay up to date on not only the Edmonton Oilers but the rest of the league, make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a bunch, and in return, we'll give you daily updates from around the National Hockey League. But with that, today we're going to hop straight into the first topic today, where we did see yesterday Stan Bowman went out to acquire Ike Howard from the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for Sam Riley. Tidy work, signing the contract immediately to its ELC on a 3-year, $950K per year. I mean, Darius, this was a player that so many teams were linked to, as Ike was set to join an NHL roster immediately. And listen, I know a lot of comments are already being typed out. He did go into his media availability saying he would prefer to go by Ike instead of Isaac. So before you write the comments, just wanted to put that out there. But what is your initial thoughts of him joining this Oilers team? Someone that a lot of teams were looking at going into July 1st.
The New York Rangers, the New York Islanders. I heard the LA Kings. A lot of teams were in on this player. And it's kind of weird to me, first of all, that he didn't want to stay with such a great franchise in the Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously, a couple Stanley Cups just a couple of years ago, and they have a good history of developing players. But nonetheless, Ike, who I am assuming that's how you pronounce it, at least Ike Howard, is a great young prospect, and he ends up going to the Edmonton Oilers. And I think this is speaks volumes as to where the Oilers are going. And obviously, we know that they've gone back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals, but there's been a lot of question marks on if they can follow that up with another Stanley Cup Final, appearance, and how many cups can Connor McDavid potentially win in the NHL. And he picked this team for a reason. He's going to be able to play high up in the lineup. We'll get to that later in the video and the impact that he'll have in the lineup and where he might play. But you can see with some of his stats, 37 games played, 52 points last season. He's ready for the NHL. It's hard to score in any other league. Like, you see so many points and point production in like the OHL, let's say, or other junior leagues. It's hard to score if you're going through the college route, the university route. I do believe it's harder to put up points through that, that avenue. So he's putting up some really good points there. I think he's done with that. I think he's probably too good right now for the AHL level. He's probably going to go right to the NHL, and he's going to make an impact with the Edmonton Oilers. And I think Oilers fans are pretty excited about it. And he picked the team for a reason. He's going to get a chance to play with some really good players, and he's going to, add some more scoring to this lineup as well, which is something that I think they desperately need going into next season.
And I mean, he said it during the availability. That's why I was so excited about the fit. It's such a high-paced, skilled, fast, work ethic first team. This is exactly my game. Going into this, we know with Tampa, he was not getting a spot within the lineup, even though I think he definitely could have squeezed in there. Joining the Oilers, he goes immediately, in my opinion, and we'll touch on this shortly, into the middle six at the very worst. But looking at some of his comparables going in, he looks pretty decent right now. A comparable in the NHL was Logan Couture at this point. You can see the star probability, the NHL probability, and it's almost at 100% because this kid is going to make it. I mean, going even deeper when comparing his D2 year, in his second year after being drafted, the NCAA, Snuggerud is a player that he is very good and lined up with. I mean, Snuggerud stepped in for the St. Louis Blues this year in 7 games, 4 points, going in to take top line minutes in the playoffs. Going back to Ike, this is a guy that has something to prove. He's going to join the NHL, making the jump. We see a lot of prospects do this, but it's usually at the end of the year. We see they finish up the season with the NCAA, immediately jump in. Cale Makar's a name, Snuggerud's a name. These guys make the immediate jump into a playoff hunt, but I do like Ike getting into this roster for a full season. And I don't know if you feel the same, Darius, but I think it's going to help a lot with his development, getting a full 82 games, 84 next year with the team, and then going into the playoffs.
I think two things can be true. I think that a lot of players, coming from college or university, joining a team late, like Snuggerud, great comparison, by the way. at least for Howard, like to be compared to a player like that. But, when you're joining a team that late in the season, you're ready to go because you just finished your season. And you can jump right in, and obviously you got the legs to go, right? So it's not as hard and as grueling as an NHL season. So there is something to that. But the fact that he's going to be starting with the Oilers from training camp, get that whole experience, I think that's only going to be a really good thing for him and for the team, and to get acclimated with the team. Where is he going to fit into the lineup from the start of the season instead of joining, halfway through or near the end of a season? Now, with Snuggerud being a comparison, I think that's an interesting one because he's played so little in the NHL, but he looked so good in those games and in the playoffs that a lot of people, we're talking about from the St. Louis Blues perspective, maybe you already have your Jordan Kyrou replacement. Maybe, this is the guy you can move the $8 million in Jordan Kyrou again. That didn't happen, but that was a conversation that was happening the last little while. So for him to be compared to a guy like this, similar in age, similar in, weight to the NHL and how long it took them to get to the NHL, he's going to be an impact player at this level for the Edmonton Oilers. And again, I don't know exactly where he's going to play. It lengthens their lineup right now. Like the Nuge can probably move further down the lineup. Maybe he's playing third line center right now, or maybe he's moving to the wing, something like that. It just lengthens the lineup. Again, you can play with a lot of things. Maybe he starts on the third line. Maybe he's starting on the first line. You move Nuge down, like I said, as an example. He's playing with McDavid. It just opens the possibility to so many different combinations and lengthens and makes this lineup that much better for a team that, yes, on paper, doesn't really look like they have depth, but man, in the playoffs, they definitely have depth, and they were getting scoring from a lot of different areas, except in the Stanley Cup Finals. So he could help in that way. He's going to be an electric player, fun to watch, and I think that again, it just makes the Oilers a better team.
And I mean, the thing is, looking at the Oilers team, they should make the playoffs going into next year. Right now, the goaltending situation. They might need to bolster the bottom six a tiny bit. Corey Perry being gone, you lose your one-way ticket straight into a loss in the Stanley Cup Finals. So maybe they go out to actually win it this year instead of losing in back-to-back seasons. But going even further into Ike, this is the guy that is projected to be the middle six. You can pause, you can read through the stats and the full comparisons, but everything he does is leading him to him joining this Oilers team right now. Like you said, on the left side, you can do a lot. Puck holes and was picked up from the Vancouver Canucks, looking very good and scoring the lone goal in their loss during the Stanley Cup Finals, which we seen the Panthers hoist the cup. Frederick just signed his contract with this team, but it is very interesting with Savoy and Howard joining this team. Could you see an issue where you're putting too many young guys into a situation? I do think Ike is going to be good, but I think the biggest thing is a lot of Oilers fans might look around the league, Snuggerud, for example, and say, hey, this guy was almost 8 points per, or at least a half a point per game. If Howard joins this team and isn't at that rate, I know a lot of people are going to be upset, but I think there's going to be a developing curve. Could you see him stepping in and maybe putting up 30 or 40 points in his first year?
I do. I can absolutely see that. And I do think that there is going to be like a learning curve for him, like you said, but it's a good thing that he's going to be there from training camp, right? That's the other positive with him being there the entire time. And in terms of having too many young guys on the team, I think that there is something to that with some teams, but what McDavid and company have built in terms of culture the last couple of years, I'm not too worried about that. You're adding a couple new pieces in. Mangiapane's a guy who's been in the league, so I feel like he's going to be able to, pick up on things very quickly, but you have a couple other guys, younger guys, like you mentioned, that'll be coming in, but for the most part, they have a lot of veteran players. They have a lot of the core guys solidified and still there. So I'm not too worried about that. Everything's going to trickle down. They're going to learn, what the culture, the philosophy of the team is in training camp. So I'm not too worried about that. Again, like, it can come out in their play if they're, immature in their play in all three zones. That might happen, but you have a whole season to figure that out and learn from literally the best player in the game.
But I mean, Oilers fans, what is your thoughts on him joining the team? Where do you think he plays within this lineup? Is he going to be top six, middle six, bottom six? How many points do you think he puts up, and how would you grade this trade? Because honestly, I do think this is a very good trade, and I think Stan Bowman did tidy work bringing in a player on such a cheap cap hit that can join this team. But go down and leave a comment on all your thoughts down below. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Darius, and take care.